it's obvious to us that if Bitcoin disappears or there's a problem with Bitcoin, then everything else is going away. Everything else is going to get attacked. It's going to be a mess. And so Bitcoin does form the dominant position. It has the most hash power. It is the currency that, in terms of its design and decentralization and ability for governments or corporate actors or anyone outside to control it, it is the strongest. And from that position, everything relies on Bitcoin surviving.
Welcome to the What Bitcoin Did podcast.
Hi there, how are you all? Welcome to the What Bitcoin Did podcast, where you get to hear from the best minds in Bitcoin and crypto. I am your host, Peter McCormack, and this week I have an interview with Jeremy Welch and Alena Vranova from Casa, looking at crypto custody. And in response to listeners, I'm moving all the normal show updates to the end of the podcast after the interview. But if you do want to support the show, then there's a section on my website which explains everything you can do to help. Okay, let's get on with the interview. Hi Jeremy, hi Alena, how are you both?
Doing well.
Good morning.
Good afternoon from here. So I'm going to start with a slightly embarrassing admission. It never really crossed my mind what the name of Casa was, and I was watching a film last week, and a lady brought a gent into the house, and she said, "Welcome to my casa." And I was like, keys.casa is keys to the castle, right?
Yeah. There you go. Home.
That's the castle, where you keep your precious stuff. Everything that you value is in your home. It's the ground, that you build upon. So that's Casa, yeah.
It also has some meaning around, the history of computing. Home has always been your home folder or the home button. It's always been something around personal computing. So that was intentional as well.
Okay. And also, Alena, Jeremy and I share a love for the same form of hardcore heavy metal. I don't know if you have a similar interest.
Well, I used to listen to a lot of punk and punk rock when I was 15, 16, even cut my hair wild and colored it green. So, yeah, I think we could share this.
Nice.
We could headbang definitely to some music.
Right, anyway, so look, thank you both for coming on. It's very good timing. I obviously had Jameson on last week to talk about privacy and safety. I'm very interested in Casa. You seem to have a very good reputation so far. I don't normally do the origin stories because they are often already done, but actually I don't know either of your backgrounds too well. So I'll start with you, Alena, because I first became aware of you quite recently. I'm obviously quite new to the Bitcoin world. I wasn't aware of your background in Trezor. So if you could just give me a brief introduction to your background, and then Jeremy, if you could do the same.
Okay. I'm a business developer. I like to bring companies from zero to profit, and that's what I've been doing for a decade before Bitcoin in the traditional finance, super boring environment of insurance and risk management. And then I discovered Bitcoin in 2010 as I was writing my thesis about international monetary system and why it's not working and why it's doomed to fail. And I was looking for alternatives, and that's where I found Bitcoin. And then 2013, I co-founded Satoshi Labs together with Marek and Pavel in order to create Trezor, the first hardware wallet. And the story afterwards. I basically left my position as CEO in 2017, last year. And this year, I joined forces with Jeremy to build up Casa, the castle.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's been a very fast, very short window that we've all been working together. Many of us, even Jameson, and I think out of the kind of shared mission and shared meaning and that we see around where this world should go, we've connected very, very quickly. So, been very fortunate.
Fantastic. And where did the idea for Casa come from, Jeremy?
So, it's been a little while coming. But my background, I grew up in the States and in the Southeast. Actually, I went and studied political philosophy at Duke and dropped out. Joined a startup really early on, actually in the advertising space. We sold that. We grew that company very quickly and sold that into Google. And I was at Google for a little while. I learned a lot during that process about the way that the advertising-based internet works. It was very disconcerting seeing all of that and seeing how much data was being tracked, everything. I mean, it was with my background and my interests, it was not a great thing to see. And so I left and I went back to finish up my studies at Duke. And it was around that time I was specifically interested in this question of the nature of capitalism. And I was studying, again, political philosophy at the time. And that's when I found Bitcoin. So this was 2013, 2014, sometime around there. So I did a few independent studies related to Bitcoin at the time. We put on a little Bitcoin conference. I had some... and that was the time when I got really deep into it and had a much better understanding of it. It's a lot of fortuitous things. Matt Carollo at the time, one of the core devs, was at UNC, and so we did an event together. But after that, I kind of stayed back. I dropped off from that world, and I wasn't very public in that world. I tried to do one or two other startups, and one of those in the last year, we were working actually on an application in the home sharing space, and had early users, had early traction, but pretty quickly realized last year I met the guys at the project called Blockstack. They're building a decentralized DNS, and or if built, it's in production. It's not many people know this, but it's one of the few projects that has been in production and working for years. I mean, you're talking 2 or 3 years of a working decentralized DNS system. And
I've got it installed on my computer, actually.
Yeah, nice. So what came out of that is we started shifting our app to be an app on top of Blockstack and understanding the more decentralized architecture. We stayed far away from ICOs. We never considered doing anything, to that end. But during the process of trying to build on Blockstack, we very quickly saw what the stack is going to look like. And it was very clear to the team, myself, that there were some big pieces of this application stack, this new application stack, this new way to write applications that were missing. One of the biggest ones was key management. Without key management, without improved key management, you're not going to be able to do anything. The kind of promised architecture of this world isn't going to work. The benefits of this world aren't going to come to fruition. And so we knew that had to be improved and solved to build better applications. We also realized that a node device in every home is where the world is going to go. And so through that experience, developed a product plan and developed a pathway towards building a kind of full stack application experience and solving some of these issues. And then met Alena, met Jameson along the way as we started talking about these ideas and about this kind of mapping or this stack. It was a very fast conversation. It was like, yeah, so this is how it works. Yeah, this is how it works. Okay, well then that means this and this and this, and this is where it should go. Oh yeah, that means that's where it should go. And it was like a very, very fast we were all on the same page, all different places, and have come together to build out Casa to make it easier for people to build out both applications, to build out key management layers, to build this full stack experience.
And obviously you've come out with the Lightning node. I've bought mine.
Awesome.
Which I'm excited to get. Although I know what I'll do. I'll end up giving it away for some reason, as a promotion.
Well, we'll have to send you another one then if you're doing that.
That would be cool. But that kind of came out of the blue. I didn't see that coming. Where did that come from? Where was the idea for that?
A part of the story that Jeremy just outlined also connects back to hardware wallets and Trezor, because when we introduced the hardware wallet, we solved a lot of issues in Bitcoin for an individual, and that is like how to protect yourself against digital risks, against viruses and hackers, and against third-party risk. So how can you keep your Bitcoins without the help of any online service, right, such as an exchange? But we also introduced new paradigm, a new problem to people, and that is how to keep my recovery seed safe. Okay, that's a little piece of paper with 24 words, and all of a sudden, like, where do I store it? Should I divide it? What if my house burns down? What if someone takes a picture? Stuff like that. So that was one part. The second part was, and these people have been asking Trezor support all the time. So that was a big issue. And another big issue I'm seeing, and Jameson is also documenting this, is the rise of physical attacks. So extortions, kidnappings, even killings for crypto. And so I thought, like, on a journey to a sovereign hodler, okay, what you need is being able to set up a multisig in an easy way, not quirky, not fighting with Electrum, not fighting with command line, something that my mom would be able to set up and use. And Casa solves that really well. So it's basically the first step on the journey to a sovereign individual is enable and use easy multi-device, multi-location, multi-signature setup. Okay, so that's the start. And now, what do you need in order to be completely sovereign Bitcoiner? You need to relay your own transactions. Okay, so that's where the node comes into play. So currently we're focusing on our premium clients. So our clients are paying $10,000 a year, but they're not paying just for the multisig app. They're paying for let's say, I call it a white glove security concierge. Okay, it's something that we just not provide the software solution, but it's also a service. It's 24/7 dedicated person on the phone in case you panic and you lose one of your ledgers or your Trezors. And you have someone to call to. You have a lot of other perks inside. And I said, a node for our clients is something that just makes sense. So each of our premium client receives a node, and we just happen to think, like, maybe this is something. We've done a beautiful interface. It's super user friendly. The node, Casa node, actually contains a Bitcoin full node and a Lightning Network node with autopilot. And the entire experience is actually the interface, because there's no command line. There's just like few clicks and you're done. So this is, again, something that, potentially my mom could use. And we decided to open it for the wider market and see, at least, like, just to see the interest. And the interest was actually overwhelming. It seems that people really do want to run their nodes, but they just didn't know how. I wanted to run my own node. The only way I did it ever was running AB Core on my phone. Why? Because it's an application that I just clicked, and I clicked buttons, right? And so we made it, it's coming as a complete package. And, the end goal is a sovereign individual.
So yeah, it was very useful, because I did try, and I'm like the least technical person. My background's creative, and I always try and understand the technical things. I tried to set up a full node, and I kind of got a bit lost. But as soon as I saw your product, I was like, great, yeah, I want that. And one thing I've noticed, and you probably have a strong opinion on this as well, Jeremy, is you guys seem to have a very strong focus on design in an industry which hasn't always had a strong focus on design, both the design of the hardware, but I also noticed on your website recently, when I was going through it, you've got the procedure for checking up on your OPSEC, and it was just so beautifully designed that it seems that you've put design at the forefront of what you do.
Yes, absolutely.
Is that because of your background in advertising?
No. It's I would almost say a lot of the advertising industry is much more about the effectiveness of some, influence campaign. And if you get into, I studied philosophy, and I'm interested in cybernetics, and I do have a mind for design. Alena does too. We're fortunate that many people on our team have a strong appreciation and a mind, and when they see something, they definitely understand it, and they know where, more design needs to be applied, or more design thinking, design principles. But it is all the credit for that goes to Scott Herf. He's our head of design. He's one of the best designers in the world. We're very fortunate. I've known him for a little over a decade, and was a long path to get him to join our team. He was on the Tinder team prior to this, and he redesigned the entire app around the super like, and which he doesn't discuss that often publicly, but that's become one of their biggest features and their big revenue driver. And he's run design at a series of companies and startups prior to that, and he wrote a book called Designing Products People Love, which is a Wiley book. It's a bestseller, phenomenal book. But just that statement, designing products people love, captures, I think, his outlook of it's not just about solving a problem. It's not just about a minimum viable product. It has to be an experience. It has to be something that people love and they're emotional about and they connect with, right? And he's totally new to the crypto space. So that was something that was, I think, advantageous. Having someone with fresh eyes come in and look at key management and look at seed phrases and look at managing multi-sig and saying how the hell are we going to make this simple for people it was a real challenge, but he's done an incredible job of learning very quickly, digesting things and bringing things to. And we haven't really shared that much about the experience with the Casa node, but you'll see it's an experience, unboxing and like setup process, the whole thing. It's beautiful. It's a great experience, but it's also very usable. And that was something that, as that came together, there's a strong security reason for running your own node. We also saw a strong experience and design reason for running your own node. So the first node we created was last year, right before we actually did key management. And it's running a node or creating a node was the impetus or the source of us really understanding the depth of the problem of key management, because we realized that to run and build a good mobile experience that is a decentralized app or is an app that runs in some capacity locally or runs as Bitcoin does, you have to be running some sort of a local node. You don't want to ping out to an outside server all the time. In fact, several different apps that if they're running on your phone or they're running on your desktop in this space, they actually run a server in the background on your computer or on your phone. And that's not scalable. That's not going to work. That means that if you're using multiple types of apps designed in this way, that they're all going to be running servers. It's going to overload your computer. It's going to be a mess. But it very quickly occurred to us, okay, why don't we, if we're thinking about applications and we're thinking about running these different servers and we're running Bitcoin and we're running Lightning and we're running Blockstack and we're running any other server that we're trying to run, then why don't we just centralize them on one device? If we have one device and we put it out there just for Bitcoin, then we can put more on that device. We can think about other ways to connect apps into that. And then if you're on your home network, which if you look at it, what's interesting is that how much time out of the day are you either at home or at an office? For most people, most of their day is spent on one network. So the ability to actually have, you don't have to, people think, oh my gosh, how am I going to connect to my home node if I'm traveling or whatever, it actually is much less of a problem than most people realize. And so what we wanted to create was this ideal experience and design this ideal experience and this path towards building better apps that would connect with, that when you're on these dominant home networks, that you can have these experiences. And then, but the security hole in that, right, that came up is an evil mate attack. When you're not there, evil mate attack, someone can walk in, just grab the device and walk out. And so the path or the solution there is to have better key management and the ability to encrypt a device, so the keys that you're using, the keys that you're managing using your Casa app, will enable you to encrypt your data that's running on your device. That's backed up to the cloud. There's a lot. So, some of those things, this earliest version of the Casa node with Lightning and Bitcoin, we've implemented a lot. There's a lot more that we're adding, but this really is going to be an upgraded experience over time. There's a lot coming down the pipe. So we're going to reveal more of that in the coming months as to where, as we're shipping this first experience, There will be more upgrades coming for the device and more announcements, and we're excited to share some of those.
Are you actually live with the key management solution? Do you have clients actively using it?
Yes, many clients on the premium side for the 3 of 5, and that is mostly Bitcoin. We do have Ethereum support, but it's a light Ethereum support, and we've started work on some other currencies as well.
So the Ethereum's a single key support for now, right?
Correct.
Because did I see you kind of put out some kind of like appeal to the Ethereum community?
That's correct. So the multi-sig on Ethereum is insecure, and it doesn't come from a direct. It's not built into the core protocol or the core EVM. It actually runs as a smart contract, and that's problematic. This is such a core function, and we've made a call basically to try to get. We made a call to the community to try to explain that from a security view, we view the reason why clients come to us is primarily security. And so when clients, they ask us about multisig, they ask us about nodes, our recommendation is around security. We call it, we call Casa wealth security service or sovereign wealth security. And so as we're looking at other solutions, we're not a trading interface. We're a long-term HODL, security interface and security service. And so as we looked at Ethereum and we look at other coins, we evaluate not just based on, hey, are our clients asking for this, but also what are the detailed security models, what are the boundaries around this protocol, what are the attack vectors here, and where would our clients potentially be at risk, and how can we build this in a better way if we need to, or encourage the engineers to build it in a better way. And this was just one area to where we very quickly saw a gap. We saw the parity hack, where it wasn't really a hack. It was some kid that was an early engineer that was going around testing a lot of commands in the parity multisig wallet, and he happened to send a kind of kill command for one contract that contract ended up being securing over $100 million. So it was a total snafu. It was it wasn't a hacker. It was someone internal. But out of that, the Ethereum community decided, and in the DAO, they did a hard fork for this specific case. They decided to do no fork. That money is still frozen. That money is not accessible. Parity's reputation has been destroyed, and that all came from one of these multisig contracts. Wasn't the fault of the multisig contract logic was perfectly sound, but it was a flaw in who had access to it, which is an issue. But it just demonstrated, or it put a position around the fact that for the Ethereum community, they may not bail you out if your even if your smart contract worked. If there's a bug or there's some other issue, there may not be an incentive for them to make any changes. And we think that that's problematic, right? Because it could be a bug that was introduced from someone else in the community that caused it. It's definitely problematic. So we've decided to support only single key in the meantime, and then try to work with some folks in that community to drive better support for multisig.
Have you had much of a response yet from the Ethereum community from your appeal out to them?
Yeah, we've spoken with several people, and we've talked with several of the major creators of different multi-sig contracts, and there is a movement to validate one of the contracts and push it towards being a kind of selected contract. We'll see how the community, their community is generally supportive of multiple implementations of any one thing. And although for certain applications and for certain pieces of a protocol, that's fine. For multi-sig and key management, that's just not going to fly, and it's going to cause insecurities. So we're supportive, and we're trying to be helpful where we can, but it'll still be a process.
And was there a need to include Ethereum even without multi-sig? Because I guess a lot of the people you're targeting probably holding Bitcoin and Ethereum, or maybe do you support ERC20 tokens as well, or just Ethereum?
No, right now just Ethereum. So we started with Bitcoin. We're all Bitcoin hodlers, and most of our early clients that we talked to when we first walked through the pitch and walked the product were all Bitcoin. Subsequently, we found out of the list of the large wait list that we have, the majority have Bitcoin. So it's something 85-90% are Bitcoin. Something around 70% have some Ethereum. The holdings aren't as big, and but there's definitely some there. And the way we've approached things is, I think business model is really important, and we've aligned around this business model of, instead you pay a flat fee for the year, and we're going to provide service. And if you're paying for a specific currency, or you have a currency as a customer, then we will work to support that currency because you're a paying customer and you're not paying us. We're not earning money off of fees and trading. We're not earning money off of, there are no mixed incentives there. It's just very simply, you're trying to protect something. You're paying for us to help advise and support you in protecting that and provide software to you to protect that. And so whatever it is you want to protect, even if it's data, if it's not even a currency, like we will help advise on that. And that's where even the security checklist comes into play.
Right. So therefore, I've looked at the potential coins you're going to support in the future: ERC20, ERC721, Litecoin, Zcash, Monero, etc., which is cool. But therefore, do you take a completely impartial position with regard to opinion on tokens and coins, and you will just support the demand from the customer?
Not totally impartial. We have a principle. We have a series of principles amongst the team, and one of those is what we call Bitcoin first. It's not pure Bitcoin maximalism, but it is maybe close. But it is much more of what we call Bitcoin first, and I think that's the healthy outlook. It's obvious to us that if Bitcoin disappears or there's a problem with Bitcoin, then everything else is going away. Everything else is going to get attacked. It's going to be a mess. And so Bitcoin does form the dominant position. It has the most hash power. It is the currency that in terms of its design and decentralization and ability for governments or corporate actors or anyone outside to control it, it is the strongest. And from that position, everything relies on Bitcoin surviving. And so we have a position around Bitcoin first to be able to lead into the world where we're heading and where we're designing towards. We will support other currencies, we will support other systems, we will support other applications, and we will build applications on top of Bitcoin. But the idea here again is that Bitcoin is this linchpin, and we have to keep that as a priority.
What are your principles with other tokens or with other coins? For example, Coinbase has their particular structure and rule set they base whether they will list a token. Do you have certain things you evaluate about the team, the token, the issuance that help you make a decision?
It's not so much, we don't think as much about, again, it just comes down to the client. I mean, that's a nice thing about aligning around paid clients, is that if a client's paying for it and is willing to pay for it, then we're happy to add it. Now, the primary concern is just around security. Are we going to be able to adequately protect this for you? Is this going to introduce more security into your life, or more security risk into your life? And so we do look at the security of the protocol and the currency, and we think through that. And we provide recommendations sometimes, or other times we've just implemented. But in this case, or in many cases, we usually have some recommendations. So we are working on, there's a couple other currencies that we've worked with teams on more recently, and we've provided a few small recommendations, but for some of them, it's a little easier to implement than others.
So I used to, a few years ago, I used to have a web development business, just very simple websites, client websites, and I would panic on a Friday night if we ever made a website live or a change live that there would be some kind of bug or some kind of problem that I would get a call over the weekend. You have implemented a key management solution which will be protecting millions and millions of dollars of crypto. So what keeps you up at night, Jeremy, with that?
I mean, I think it just comes down to the security of our clients. I think that we, from an engineering perspective, we have very strong process. We have very strong testing. We have extensive tests on back end and in the applications, a lot of people don't realize this, but even in the application, we actually, we effectively engineer ourselves out of the equation. So we revalidate, we rederive your addresses both in the app and on the server. We validate those against each other. We take a very strong engineering and security view against the whole system while also thinking about the experience design, right? And so I think that what keeps me up at night more is not so much the immediate, yes, we are designing a lot of immediate pieces here, but the more kind of comprehensive picture of what we're building. And there's still a lot of big design problems to solve. There's a lot of work to do to make it so that, again, anybody can run their own node. And we've made tremendous strides, and the team has done a phenomenal job. And we have the best team in the space, period, bar none. From every end, from engineering and operations, client service, and design, it's unreal. The team is unreal. But again, the thing that keeps me up at night is we have this mission. We have clients that are very passionate and need this service. The product that exists today is solving that need and is doing a good job of it. And the security architecture means that and that's important. The design and the security architecture mean that we have certain protections on the downside. But again, the bigger thing that I think keeps me up at night out of all of that is more around kind of what comes next. Because it's security is a moving target. It's not always like you can't just set it and forget it. So I am thinking a lot about and working with the team a lot on, what comes next. And the security checklist is one of those examples of broadening our reach and broadening our impact and helping everyone, but building solutions that will continue to help secure people over time. It's a journey. It's gonna take time to really improve and help people.
So let's talk a bit about the product. As you know from my podcast, I always tend to approach it from the simpler side of things, people who don't understand things. So I've never once interacted with a multi-sig wallet. Okay, never done it once. I don't know how it works. I can't picture in my head the journey of using a multi-sig wallet. So can you just talk me through how multi-sig works, and if I was to use Casa, how I would interact with a multi-sig wallet?
Imagine a multi-sig very simple, just like when you have a bank account and you need more signatures in order to move money. The same happens in multi-sig. So you have a defined set of signatures that you need, that you have, and then the number of signatures that you need to use out of those to move those funds. So we are working with a 3 of 5, which means there are a total of 5 keys, and the client has 1 key on his phone, 3 hardware devices, ledgers and treasures, and then the 5th key is in Casa, and that key is not used to co-sign your transactions. It's basically there to help you recover from a bad situation. So basically, in order to move funds, you initiate the transaction on your phone. That's 1 key, and then you go, for example, to your lawyer because he has one of your hardware wallets, and you go to your office because there's another hardware wallet of yours. The idea here is to distribute the keys in a way that make it, even for a physical attacker, very expensive to try to extort you. Okay, so if someone holds a gun at me and says, Alena, give me your Bitcoins, I say, yeah, I would love to, but I need to see my lawyer and I need to see my office. Then the assumption is that the attackers will be rather discouraged to do so. Now, where the hardware wallets are is up to every client. We are not giving any precise advice because I don't think it's a good security measure to actually do some some prescription on where to place those hardware wallets. But this is basically the principle how it works.
Right. So is there still a potential security hole there? So if I had a mobile and a hardware wallet, that is essentially a scenario where I could be quite often keeping 2 of my keys together.
Yes, and that's And that's okay. So the principle is you never want to have more than 2 keys in one location. It takes a total of 3 keys to sign and execute a transaction. And so you never want to have more than 2 in one location. But if a client were to put 3 in one location, then yes, they are at risk. And so we advise strongly against that. We provide basic guidelines around, a home safe, an office safe, using a safety deposit box at a bank. Each setup for the client is unique, and they have, they've spoken with other family members or colleagues or whoever it is in their life. And one of the other interesting things out of multi-sig is that you can actually involve more people, because with a single sig, even with a seed phrase, if you do allow a spouse or a brother or some other family member or a lawyer to have a portion or all of that seed phrase, then they have control they have the potential to control those funds. And that's not always a trust issue of, potentially them taking that. It actually opens them up to the security risk of also being attacked. So it's, spreading the keys out multiple locations. Sometimes that's with another person, sometimes that's with another bank, but the setup is always unique. We do emphasize the kind of sovereignty and responsibility of our clients, and we design around that. But we also think about kind of lifetime relationships and providing the support that if they, sometimes our clients, they go through a lot of testing before they onboard funds. And that means sometimes that they actually change locations. They start with one set of locations, they test it out, and then they change it to another set of locations. But ultimately, kind of coming back to your question of, how it works for you, multi-sig works for you. You have an app on the phone. The phone makes it easy to view the 5 keys using the key shield. If one of those keys goes down, or you haven't used it in a while, you haven't tested it in a while, then it'll get flagged and you need to go check that key. Regular maintenance is something that has always been a part of multi-sig, is regularly checking, once a year or so to make sure everything's working. And so we do that. And, but then you can use the app to aggregate and sign multiple signatures, and it's totally asynchronous. You can sign one signature one day, travel into the office or to another city where you have another key, and sign that 2 days later. And we help you construct that transaction and then finally broadcast it.
Yeah, I would just add that one of the key features of Casa is that we completely did away with the recovery seat. Which means you have 5 keys, you have 3 hardware wallets, but you have 0 recovery seats to protect, which is an amazing setup. Otherwise, if you would go and set up your own multi-sig, you also have to protect the recovery seats for each of the hardware wallets or the devices that you're using, which basically increases your risk exposure. And that's exactly the opposite of what you want to achieve with the multi-sig, right? So we've been thinking on how to make it really more secure and not less secure. And that's how we operate. So our clients do not store recovery seats in case of they lose one of their hardware wallets. We simply help them, or basically they can do the key rotation by themselves through the app. It's quite easy. You just flag one key as missing, and basically move the funds, or he moves the funds to a new multi-sig setup with a new missing, or a replacement of the missing hardware wallet.
Okay, I understand. So there was a situation in Ireland once where the Irish bank got robbed because the family were taken hostage in the house. Somebody stayed with the family and somebody took the bank manager to the bank to let them in. So I guess a scenario where there's 2 keys at home, say a mobile and a hardware wallet, and 1 in the office, I guess full disaster scenario, there still exists that scenario where a gun to the head could say, well, let's go to the office and get the 3rd key.
Yep. But the design there and the consideration there is that most attackers are not planning on going multiple locations. So you already eliminate a certain type of attacker by just having that. Secondarily, the type of attacker that would go into the office, that would go check things, you frequently have, especially for these types of clients, you frequently will have security guards in those offices. You will have security systems, cameras, lots of other layers. Even just driving to and from the office, you'll often get picked up on other kind of closed circuit or CCTVs, other, maybe when you're leaving in the neighborhood, whatever. There are other areas that you could signal to someone, you could signal help. The point is just extending that time, extending the amount of space that has to be traversed. And over time, I mean, that increases the likelihood that even if they were to take the funds, that that person would be caught.
Yeah. So I guess the biggest risk is more users following the guidelines correctly and implementing the correct OPSEC and not being lazy and not sitting with all 4 keys at home for a couple of weeks before they get around to things. I guess it comes down to the user. Right.
And that's why part of the important part of having strong service is also around the constant emphasis that we provide around that security. It's easy, whenever it's just you at home and you're not really thinking about it, to kind of slack off in a sense. But having that person, our team, that's regularly, we also have a thing that we call the intelligence briefing that we send out every weekend, that provides a series of updates and our take on the news that week and what you should be paying attention to and any improvements you should be making in your process. So it's a constant dialogue with people. And I think it's important that people are evolving their security procedures over time. And then that provides a little bit of the awareness that, I think keeps people from making those mistakes. And we've also, one thing to point out is that we've done a lot of work. The product is practically self-service. So rotating keys, you can do everything. And you even have the ability to, if Casa disappeared tomorrow, you'd have full access to your funds. And that's really, really important. Even if someone were to hold us, if someone were to cut us off, government were to cut us off, or a corporate actor, or just a DDoS attack, wouldn't matter. You'd still have control of your funds, and you can still do everything. But what's important from that is that it's much harder to kind of shoot yourself in the foot or create problems for yourself because it's been designed very well. So those are the two attack vectors that we're primarily mitigating is these physical attackers and then the issues of just stupidity and making mistakes yourself. We are designing actively to prevent that.
Okay, so if something was to happen to the company, could they continue to use the service or would they have to move the funds into something new?
So that's a question of timing. Right now, they would shift something. They would still be able to use the software, but they would shift. Our recommendation and what our security procedure says is they would shift things into another wallet or some other means of control. But over time and where we're headed, and now that the Casa node is public, our goal is to take most of what we're doing, even from a software perspective, and gradually shift more and more of that onto the node device. And so even, in a case to where we did go out, that they would still be able to use the full service. And then maybe when they reconnected back to the broader network or to Casa, if their internet went out or they're, regionally, there's a variety of situations that it wouldn't matter. And we've even tested, one of our engineers has actually tested a Casa node. It got a bunch of retweets a few weeks ago. Funnily enough, it was actually, I think, the week before we announced the node, but one of our engineers actually tested even connecting directly to a satellite connection. So we've been testing a variety of means, and the goal is to gradually shift more and more of this into your own control.
Is there any risk or possibility that somebody could build a decentralized version of what you've done, which therefore eliminates what you need, or does it require a central third party like yourself with a fifth key?
Yeah, the software solution is just one tiny part of everything that we provide, and this is important to understand. I've been seeing a talk by Andreas Antonopoulos recently, where he said one important thing. What are the options today for a Bitcoiner? You can either be completely on your own, so have your hardware wallets and protect your stuff, and that's like the wet dream of a Bitcoiner, right? To be completely sovereign, or you can give up all you have to a company the type of Coinbase. Okay, so you can do either or, and we are bridging this experience of being completely secure but being also completely sovereign. And we're not holding your crypto; we're holding your hand if you want to. And this is something that is very difficult to replicate in the space. You can, of course, build a service company, a concierge service, and yes, you can do that. But we have like a very unique composition of the team that we have, of the philosophy that we share, of the approach to the software as well. But like the entire package, I believe it's quite difficult to replicate in the space, but not impossible, of course. And competition is good.
So we've evaluated for everything that we've actually shipped, every product that we've actually shipped, and this is something that I think a lot of people haven't probably fully processed. So for every product that we've shipped, we've tried 10, 15 other variations. We've looked at everything. I mean, we evaluated key splitting. We evaluated, full multi-sig. We evaluated 2 of 3 multi-sig. We evaluated 4 of 6 multi-sig. We evaluated 8 of 10. We evaluated all these different schemes, all these different, and we only came to what we built after if you really get into the product design process. And Scott himself, just on user interface side, goes through 4 or 5 different iterations of every single screen before he settles on the kind of composition that makes the most sense. So there's a lot of work. There are some other paths, but what we've arrived at is this rare mix of evaluating pretty much everything out there and saving people time. Our goal is not to build a solution that requires you to constantly come to Casa. Our goal is just to give you what people pay us for is we've evaluated just about everything out there. And that is, there will continue to be new technologies that we will continue to incorporate in Casa. There will be increases in decentralization that we will suck into Casa and we will make use of that, right? But we will first evaluate it, and we will evaluate it from every angle. And, most people don't have the time. They lead lives. They have families and they have jobs. And, for some people it is fun to test out these security features, and that's great. But, and we encourage that. We encourage people to be as independent as they can. But it's really hard. It takes a lot of time. And it takes a lot of knowledge, and most people just don't have that time or knowledge. And so we're doing that on behalf of our clients as we're testing out everything possible and then bringing them the best of the best. And that'll continue. That process will continue. We've got other products we're announcing through the end of the year that, in terms of a cohesive experience and just this kind of edge of security experience, it's not about any one technology. It's about everything working very cohesively together. And again, that's very, very hard to achieve.
I don't have enough Bitcoin to justify becoming a Casa customer. Yeah, maybe one day. But I was trying to envisage using it. And one of the downsides of it, which is by design, is that you've made it difficult to move funds, right? For naturally as a way to protect them. So if I suddenly need some Bitcoin, I have to create the transaction and I have to go to the various places. And like you said, you might do it at work in 2 days to do the final thing. Therefore, I kind of pictured this scenario where I almost think I need 3 levels of accounts, almost like the Casa multi-sig is my vault.
Yep.
I almost then need almost like a savings account where maybe at the start of the month I put in like the amount I would maybe need over a month, and then like almost like a cash account. Do you envisage people having different levels and will you be supporting that with your products?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think that the very clear picture there is that we started with the hardest thing, right? We started with the most important and hardest thing, which was multi-sig, and that's long-term cold storage. But we have added single key support, and we have launched the Casa node, and so you can start to see a picture forming to where it's about managing keys, and then those keys manage your assets, and regardless of where those assets are, if it's on the node or if it's in a multi-sig setup. Most people will have multiple key setups. Most people will have some money in custodial services, right? It won't be all of your money, but it'll be some of it. Some of it will be in a hot wallet. Some of it will be on a node. And where we're headed, what we're building, and there will be other price points beyond the. We'll announce more things soon. But you've basically already become a Casa client if you've bought a Casa node. And we don't view that as you bought a one-time device, right? Like there will be more coming with that node, and you've basically entered into the Casa experience just at another price point. So there is more coming. We started with this premium segment, and we started with 3 of 5 because specifically it was solving one of the hardest problems. But out of developing that expertise and out of all the software and interfaces that we built for that, we can now leverage into building into hot wallets and building into these other areas for managing the kind of the full experience of your funds.
I got a feeling you're hinting at that a 2 of 3 is coming, which I might be able to afford.
We'll see.
Don't give up too much. That one of the things that keep me awake, we didn't touch on that, is the amount of people actually keeping their funds on third-party services, and the amount of people calling for custodial services. That is mind-blowing, considering we're in Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is designed to be a peer-to-peer private money. Okay, it is not supposed to sit somewhere in any other people's vaults. And the amount of people, so I'm happy to have services such as Coinbase. They're amazing because they enable people easy access, easy diving into Bitcoin. So you have news of 25 million customers on Coinbase. Amazing. But you also need to understand that the Coinbase owns 25 million people's KYC data. And so one day, I hope not, but that there may be an event where this data leaks. And all of a sudden you have 25 million targets. So that keeps me awake. And I think we should work our ways through, securing the most crypto wealth right now, but also to secure, to help people understand. That's why we started with the security checklist, to allow people just go through simple questions and see for themselves what's their security health. One of the questions is how you store your keys. Do you use a third-party service? Do you use second-factor authentication? Do you use a password manager? Stuff like that. So trying to educate people that yes, this is a good service if you want to do a quick exchange. Yes, this is a good service if you want to use, Bitcoin for small spendings, then you use a hot wallet, and this is what you do if you want to secure your wealth.
What are the disaster scenarios? Say my house burns down, I lose 2 of my keys. That's fine because I've still got 2. I can call you guys up. You've got 1. That's fine. It's some silly scenario where I've lost 3, right?
Again, the system is designed in a way so that as soon as you lose 1, we have all kinds of alarm bells. If you flag 1 as being off, we have all kinds of alarm and we get notifications. So we're calling you to try to help and get you. And we also hold in reserve. We hold we're authorized resellers for both Trezor and Ledger. And we hold a few devices. We hold up to 3 devices for our clients. So if they're anywhere in the world and they lose a device, that we will overnight them 1. They can also just get 1 off the shelf anywhere, but we at least make that available that they'll never be without a device. So the disaster scenarios are, if you really dig into those, are situations to where, every area where you've placed a key is somehow compromised. But the reality is in that situation that you have much bigger problems. So, in a scenario to where if you had keys in New York and you had a key in San Francisco and you had a key in Texas and all 3 were nuked somehow, right? That's a big problem. And there are, again, some of our clients, they have their funds that are in Casa that are kind of long-term cold hodling, and they may have some funds in Zappo that are in the nuclear bunker. And but the interesting thing about Zappo is the flip of that is that you don't have access to those funds. You can't get easy access, and if there is a nuclear war, then it may be decades before you can finally get over there, and just depending on the situation. So there are these trade-offs, and the one thing that we do provide you is full control. You can access it at any time, and so I think that getting to these extreme cases is life starts to change so rapidly. The important thing that we have designed into the system is the ability that even though your keys are spread out, the experience around gathering, signing, recovering is extremely fast. So your ability to recover is extremely fast, and your ability to sign, assuming you can get to those locations, is also fast. So in a real disaster scenario, you would shift funds out of the 3 of 5 because the primary security concern is most likely going to be for you to be on the move. You don't want to stay in a city if there's a major disaster scenario. You want to shift out and travel or be on the road. We do think through those scenarios. We also have another product that's coming out that also mitigates another very, very far edge case. So there's more coming, and I think that again, this will be a gradual journey of just, we will consider every case and then mitigate everything that we can. But there will be always disaster scenarios, and even in that case, the one thing that we can provide is that you will have someone there 24/7 with you to try to solve those scenarios and try to recover, or try to, device gets dropped in water or something, right? Like we will do everything within our power to help you recover. And so even that is a level up from where most people would be.
Let me ask a question about something I don't technically understand. Say I lose my hardware wallet, so I've lost one of my keys then. Do you need the other keys to generate a new key? Is that how it works?
No.
How are new keys generated then? So say I lose 3, how can you not just generate a new one and then I have 3?
So the problem with losing 3 is that in order to access the original set of funds, so in a multi-sig setup, you have the 5 keys in our case, 5 total keys, and you have to sign with 3 of them to get funds out of those addresses that are tied to those 5 keys. So in a scenario to where if 3 total keys were lost, even if you generated a new key set of 5 and you synced those, you wouldn't be able to move funds from the old key set into the new key set.
Right. So if you lose a key and you have a new key created, you're actually creating a new key set.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct. And we automate that process. So we simplify and automate that process, and it's full HD wallet, right? So all multiple addresses tied to each new key set. We allow you to select by UTXO and very careful specific transactions. Buy your old UTXO sets to new UTXO sets, and it's very customized in terms of, but very fast and automated in terms of how that works, which would normally take, an engineer at a command line a very, very long time, and having a lot of information and being very aware of their UTXOs, which most people just aren't.
Say I'm at home, I've got my 2, and I've lost my one, say at the office, and you create a new key set. Do those 2 original at home still work, or do they have to also be reset?
No, they work. They
work.
Yeah, that's the important thing, and the nuance of the design is that you can phase out one. All the other keys still work. You just sync the new key.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have a totally new key set, and that we assist you in making the shift from the old key set to the new key set. It's very fast. It can all happen within 3 or 4 minutes.
So how do I say I've lost that key? How do I get that new key set? Like I say, I've got my new device.
Yep. You just tap in the app. You click on the key. You flag it as compromised. You tap the key again. You flag replace key.
Okay.
You plug the key in on a computer and sync that key with our systems, and then we generate all of the new addresses for you, the key set for you. We derive all of that. That's derived again, though, that's derived on our servers, and it's derived on your app directly, and then that's validated between the 2.
And that all just starts working straight away.
Mm-hmm.
So sorry to push on this.
No, this is great.
Just so I'm trying to get my head around it. So say Mr. Extorter comes to my house with a gun and a hardware wallet. What stops him putting a gun to my head and getting me to then phone you and say one of my keys is lost and restoring and creating a new key set with the hardware devices there, and then suddenly he's got 3?
Yeah, well, he could create a, but he's still going to require you to sign with a bunch of your old keys to put funds on the new keys. And if even in that new key, that new singular key, That new singular key is still tied to all of your old keys. So he's not going to be able to do anything with that money without coming to you every single time.
No, I mean, like, he comes to me, I've got 2 keys, he gets me to retire one, he gets a new one created, and with those 3, he forces me to transfer my funds to another wallet.
Well, he can't, it's only with your old key set, right? But what you're describing is that he's basically rotated one of his keys into the system.
Yeah, that's right? What I mean, yeah.
Is I think what you're describing. Yeah, well, but in that scenario, he can't access funds from only that key.
No, but he's sat with me with a gun to my head, does a transaction, I sign my 2, and he signs the 3rd one, and the funds are gone.
Well, again, that won't. Okay, so to even get funds onto that key set, you would still have to go to multiple locations. So if you rotated in his key, right? If you attempted to do that, to even put funds into that new key set, you still have to go multiple locations.
Why is that?
So it would be no different because you have to sign multi-sig to get. So you have to sign with the old key set to get into the new key set.
Sorry, I'm getting lost here because.
Yeah. So think of it like this, okay? Think of it like this: you're home, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have keys to get in all of the doors, and if there's an attack, if something happens, if you lose keys, if something then you just change the locks, right, on your home.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime there's an attack, you change the locks. Anytime that you're changing the locksmith has to come out. It's a long process, right? Same thing with on the multi-sig side. We've simplified everything around key set management, around key generation, around even signing. What we haven't done is we have made sure to still use the signing process of having to go multiple locations and use multiple devices. So even though you can regenerate a new key set within a few minutes, right? You still, to fully complete your new setup, you would have to go to one of your other locations and get another key. So that attacker, he's not going to gain anything.
Oh, right. So, and how do you know then that I've gone to that new location?
In order to move funds, you need to sign 3 keys. That's simple. You will not be able to move anything unless you do 3 signatures. 1 on your phone, 2 hardware wallets. So ideally, those hardware wallets are not with your phone, but if one of them is, then you go to another location for the 3rd key.
I'm still sorry. I don't mean to be a pain. I know I must be, but
No. It's okay. It's okay.
I'm imagining I've got my mobile wallet and 1 hardware wallet home, 1 at my dad's, and 1 at my office. Say that's my 4. An attacker comes, holds the guns to my head. I go into the app and I say I've lost my home wallet.
Yes.
He's brought a new.
Yeah, an attacker would not want to replace your keys. An attacker would ask you to transfer the bitcoins to his address. Okay, that would be the scenario. So you would say, okay, I would like to do, but we need to go to see my lawyer and we need to go see my office.
That's the scenario where the attacker, like you've convinced the attacker that you have to go somewhere else.
Well, you have to go somewhere else regardless. In every single case, if you're going to make a transaction, even if it's a recovery to shift into a new key set, you have to go multiple locations. Does that make sense?
Why, if I've got 3 keys with me, do I have to do that?
You should not. This is the practice of security practice is having distributed multi-device, multi-location. That's the standard practice.
I think I know where he's disconnecting. So what you just said was if you have 3 keys. And I think what you're assuming is that, so the 3 keys that you have the key on the phone, you have the key at home, right? And then you're assuming that the key the attacker has. Is that correct?
Yeah, the attackers.
Yes.
The attackers switched in their key and he sat with you, so they've got 3 keys.
Yeah, but he can't switch in that key. So there's a disconnect right here, okay? So 3 keys are at the home when the attacker is there with the new key, okay? But that setup, that key set with his new key has zero funds on it. It has nothing on it.
Right.
Okay? All of your money is still on the old key set.
Right. So I have to go to the other place.
Exactly. And so it doesn't matter. He can swap in a key all he wants, and it's not going to get them anything. The only thing that will happen is if they took you to other locations to go get your old keys. So really, even though there are 3 keys at the home, it's really 2 keys that are actually connected to your funds and 1 key that has no connection to your funds right now. So you still have to go get another 3rd key that's somewhere else at another location to do a transfer.
Right.
But this is a case that won't even matter because, again, no attacker is going to do this. Logically, it makes 0 sense because even if an attacker rotated in 1 key, then they would have to come to you every single time they wanted a transaction because they can't sign with 1 key. They have to have 3 total.
Oh no, I would take the whole lot at once and just then disappear. Yeah. It's good though that because I sat here at home and I was thinking I'm going to find a way of breaking this. I'm going to really find a way of breaking this and feel really smart. That's what I spent most of my time preparing for and thinking of different scenarios. But really all I could come down to is stupidity.
Yeah.
Or some sophisticated attacker who would also have to know that you have Casa and your setup and have to be prepared for some scenario multi-location. And it is really quite impressive, actually.
Yeah, but again, even in that case, there's so much room for error. Most attackers, most thieves, they have very, very tight windows and very, very tight locations. They're not looking multiple locations at once. And then it just becomes a question, okay, even if they designed a multiple location attack, how much are they actually getting? And how much are they going to have to spend to achieve that? If they have to spend $500,000 or $1 million because of that, they have to hire an entire team of people to achieve this, right? And they're only getting $2 million. And then there's the risk that someone else rats someone out and, there's all kinds of complications happen. So you ultimately are just creating this scenario to where the cost gets higher and higher and higher and higher for an attacker, and the risk gets higher and higher and higher. And so that prevents these attacks from happening.
And I guess also from your side, you don't really want to hold much customer data or know too much about your customers, really, because that is a attack vector as well.
That's an attack vector in and of itself. Yeah. So we've actually gone above and beyond in limiting our customer data. We don't use any tracking in the apps. We don't use a lot of companies use these tracking systems to just understand what their clients are using in the apps, and we've removed those. We don't use those in our design or in our applications. We're doing a lot of steps that no one else is doing to limit any kind of customer information, and we have certain customer communication channels which we send advice down, or but that's it. And so the client, we design even for internal attackers, right? We design for Casa should never be able to compromise you.
Yeah, because I was wondering, are there any risks of rogue developers coding some kind of time bomb that screws your clients, basically?
It's a very real thing in all systems, and that's one thing that people just are not considering. And so we are even designing against that, to mitigate that. And that's what I pointed out. Even so, that's limiting customer information. That's rederiving addresses on both the apps and the server side. There's just a variety of things that we do that no one else is doing to ensure that that's not even possible.
Well, look, we've done an hour and 15 already. Alena, I'm not going to ask you a lot about B Foundation because I know you've answered it a lot. I just want to say, how is it going?
Good. We are in the process of establishing everything and setting everything in place so that we can start to be fully operational early next year. That was the plan. We're following up on that, and November will be the final steps, in this establishment area, and we are implementing the donation engine that is on Giacomo's shoulders right now. So we're moving forward. I hope we will start doing some real projects very, very soon.
And Jeremy, what's coming up for you and for Casa? What should we keep an eye out? Obviously, there's lots coming, but what can you tell us?
Well, the nodes. First off, we are shipping those. So we are on the final. We've just been doing some assembly and final testing this week, and those will go out. I think on Monday is the first big shipment. So that's moving. That's exciting. But then there will be more updates to those nodes. We do have a way of providing kind of software updates, and so there will be more features and more additions to that. There will be more on the key management side. There's another new kind of secret project that will be coming out. And again, we view this as like a kind of package, as you buy at a certain pricing tier and you get a package of stuff. So there's more coming. We're excited about this year, and we're excited about 2019. You can go to keys.casa and check out the security checklist and the other products there. But it's going to be a fun year. It's going to be a fun year.
I feel like you've real leveled up in terms of what you're doing here in crypto. Like you say, the team you've assembled, the focus on design, it's very impressive.
Well, it's ultimately, I mean, I think that again, it's kind of assembled itself, right? It's as soon as we kind of arrived at, this core mission of maximizing personal sovereignty and safety, and we talked through the we were all surveying and looking around at the other solutions in the market. And, this is one case. If you look at like the iPhone, there's hundreds of cell phone models prior to the iPhone emerging. And what happens in cases to where someone takes a very kind of lateral move or a very big leap, and to the Apple team, it seemed obvious. Like, why aren't people doing this? Why don't people have apps? Why don't people have these other components? And as soon as it's out there, it took a little time to build the momentum. But then all of a sudden, everyone also shifted the game, and shifted in that direction. So, we think about kind of core design experience, what the rules of the game are for Bitcoin, for decentralized apps, and we're building the best possible experience around that, and enabling people to secure their funds and secure their data. And there's just more coming along that path. So as soon as we kind of started elucidating what pieces of that looked like, everyone else on the team has kind of rallied around that. So it's been a very natural growth of the team, and we're much bigger than we kind of let on publicly. But we're excited about the next year and releasing more products and helping people manage their keys and manage their data and manage their Bitcoin and more. So
fantastic. And how can people stay in touch with you, and who do you want to hear from?
So you can go to keys.casa, check out the security checklist. On Twitter, we are at Casa, CASA, HODL, HODL. And anybody that has questions around security, anybody that has questions around key management, if you're managing large amounts of funds, small amount of funds, we are happy to help anyone. The DMs are open. You can also just email help@team.casa directly.
Fantastic. And you, Alena, how can people stay in touch, and who do you want to hear from?
Ideally on Twitter or Telegram, Alena Satoshi, or just message Casa if you want to become a client. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you both for coming on.
Thank you for inviting us, Peter.
Excellent. Thank you, Peter.
Okay, so what did you make of that? Did you enjoy that interview with Alena and Jeremy? I think Casa are pretty cool. I think it's pretty impressive what they're building, the team, the product set, the processes. Yeah, it's pretty cool, really. And I think they are probably one of the most exciting companies in crypto. Personally, I'm starting to get the full picture of what they're building, and I am excited to see what they have to announce coming up through the rest of the year. And I'm also very excited to get hold of my Lightning node. Okay, so a couple updates on the show. I'm going to be releasing a bonus episode on Thursday. It's the 10-year anniversary of Satoshi releasing the white paper. And I had an interview with Dan Held where we talked about Bitcoin's Immaculate Conception. Feels like a good day to release that. Also, I've mentioned it before, my other podcast is coming soon. Very, very soon. Just need to get the time to get that engineered and out. I'll be off to World CryptoCon in Vegas this week to interview a few people. Feel free to reach out to me if you want to meet up and have a chat, talk Bitcoin. Okay, if you want to support the show, there are a number of things you can do. Firstly, you can become a Patreon. Head over to patreon.com/whatbitcoindid. There are options there for getting the show early or helping contribute with the show. I'm hugely grateful to everyone who contributes. I think I'm up to about 30 now. It's just ridiculous. But thank you for everyone who does that. You can become a show sponsor. If you're interested in reaching new audiences, you can email me on hello@whatbitcoindid.com. We can schedule a call and talk about how you may advertise on the podcast. You can leave me a review on iTunes or also subscribe. If you think I deserve 5 stars, that's hugely appreciated. You can follow me on social media. My handle is @whatbitcoindid on everything, and I'm on Twitter, Medium, and Instagram. You can check out my website, lots and lots going on there, loads of updates, loads of ways for navigating the old podcast, and transcriptions for the most recent ones, but I will be doing the backlog. You can access that at www.whatbitcoindid.com. You can also sign up to my newsletter there. I'm currently doing a daily email. It's proving a lot of work, but I'm going to try and continue doing it, just summarizing the best news, podcast, blog posts in the Bitcoin space. And lastly, you can share this out with your friends and family. Listen, thank you to everyone who supports the show. It means so much. The feedback, the sponsors, the patrons, everyone who shares it out, everyone who gives me positive feedback, well, negative feedback too. You know, you learn from it all. I look forward to continuing to provide really cool guests. So yeah, thanks to everyone. Next time I speak to you, I'm going to be 40. I'm probably going to be a little older and a little grumpier. But anyway, all right, have a great week.